Obviously, yeah, we're down here for Comic-Con, and we've been we kind of last year I think was our first year back at the show, and this year we've got a booth on the show floor, but we've also got this lounge at the Marriott where we're showing off Zelda and a whole bunch of other games. So
excellent. And so we're showing it off today, and we're jumping actually directly into a boss fight, so we don't want to miss this little setup here. The dramatic reveal of
Girahim.
Girahim?
Yes.
Pretty
That's right.
sinister-looking fellow.
Yeah, and this is actually this boss battle serves kind of a few different roles. The game starts out obviously with Skyloft, which is the land above the clouds.
Okay.
And Link ends up dropping down in search of Zelda, who has fallen down below the clouds. And he kind of is working his way along, and up until this point, you would have gotten maybe a hint that there was sort of someone shadowing you a little bit. But this is your first encounter with Girahim, who kind of calls himself the demon or the lord that rules the land beneath the clouds.
The land beneath the clouds.
Right.
Yeah, now if you folks watched our E3 demo, we featured the bird riding, which took place. You sort of leapt off that skyloft and soared through the air. And then we sort of talked then about how Skyloft served as sort of another jumping off point. This is just going to be puns all demo long, is that okay?
That's fine.
That allows you to access different areas of the world beneath the clouds.
That's right. It's kind of a dual-tiered world, and actually the scope of it is pretty amazing. I think when people get in and start exploring the overworld down below, they're going to be impressed with just how vast it is compared to, I think, past Zelda games. But you use the world up above the clouds, Skyloft. You kind of soar around on the birds. There's floating islands out there for you to discover that you can explore and find kind of treasures and even people on some of those floating islands. And then you also have points from up above where you can drop down below to the world down below and access the different areas.
To the world below, where now obviously we meet Girahim down here. Are there other folks, that you meet along the way? Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, he's certainly...
This dude talks a good game, and he definitely has the psychological warfare going for him.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the creepier bosses that we've seen in a Zelda game. One of the other things that I think is actually great about this is this comes at the end of the first dungeon, but it illustrates to a certain degree how the Zelda team has looked at trying to do something different with the game this time and kind of break away from the traditional Zelda mold.
Okay.
So this is actually one of the rare cases where you don't use the item found in the dungeon to defeat the boss. It's strictly it's a sword-on-sword battle.
And
if you notice
without a sword.
Yes, he just he's certainly he's got some skills. He can you watch his hand and he can grab Link's sword,
catches it between his
fingers, and then if you don't get it back out of there, then he'll steal the sword from Link and use it against you.
Yeah, he seems very cocky.
He's certainly got some attitude. Yes.
And definitely into diamonds as sort of an aesthetic thing, could we say?
Yeah. So what's interesting here is you've kind of gotten the idea that he's been following you, and that the intro to this, he certainly makes it clear that he is pursuing Zelda as well, and kind of he meets you in this room, and both of you have this sense that Zelda's in the next room beyond. But he kind of decides that it's time for him to put a stop to what you're trying to do.
And it's never
and you get in this, of course. And so you get in this fight with him, and if we can, we'll see. If you watch, he'll hold his hand in the air, and you'll have to figure out a way using, of course, Wii Motion Plus and the one-to-one sword control, how you get around that.
Yeah, if for folks who've seen Zelda in action before, usually when he's sort of poised in a boss fight, his sword is back, he's in this action stance, but now we're seeing that sword move around as the demoer repositions his remote to get a better angle.
That's right, and it matches your position in space. So if you're holding your hand out here, Link's going to be holding his hand out here. It follows your hand around, and it matches your angle. The other thing that's, I think, really nice about the game is they've done a great job of giving players a variety of different ways to tackle a situation.
Okay.
In this case, there's a few different things you can do, and there's an example of if you use the nunchuck and shake your nunchuck out, Link will shake his shield out, and if you do that at the right moment, you can block his attack and kind of knock him back. Another option is if you time a spin attack just right as he comes at you, and you have to do it from the proper side. You can cut across him as he's trying to cut you, and you can and attack him that way.
Oh, cool. So, I mean, you guys, with the Wii Motion Plus, you're really, it seems, you're trying to make it so sword play is a lot richer, a lot more deep in terms of what kind of tactics you can employ.
Right, and it's not just for the sake of leveraging Wii Motion Plus. What they've done is they've gone through the game and they've woven that into every combat situation that you can imagine. Whereas I think it would be kind of safe to say that in past Zelda games, the enemies weren't really so much of a challenge when you met them out in the overworld or in a dungeon, unless they were like a boss or kind of a mid-boss. They were really just kind of an obstacle that you would bam, 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 cut through.
Yeah, you sort of block that thing and then swag, swag, swag.
Right, and now what they've done is with the, specifically taking advantage of the sword control and Wii Motion Plus, is they've really built in a system that almost turns the combat itself into puzzle solving. And of course, puzzle solving is what the Zelda series is really well known for.
True enough.
And they've also, on that front, gone through and woven that into the overworld as well. So now even just the process of getting to a dungeon almost feels like going through a dungeon, because there's so much puzzle solving to do in the exploration of the overworld as well.
All right. I mean, so Skyward Sword, first new Zelda game on the Wii since Twilight Princess. So you guys are fixing to make this a big one.
Oh yeah,
it sounds like
it is. Yeah, we'll be talking more about kind of the scope of the game and some more of the detail of the story, but it's certainly going to be a very large game. There will be a lot of content for people to enjoy. And even here at Comic-Con, we did release an updated version of the E3 trailer that kind of gives you a little more insight into some of the characters in Skyloft. I think we threw a little hint of a Goron out there as well for the longtime Zelda fan.
Excellent. Now, and that trailer also shows off the game's art style, which is, it's always kind of tough to nail down a description of a Zelda game art style unless it's, Wind Waker sort of cell shading or, the more realistic Twilight Princess. This is almost it's got this painterly quality almost to it.
Yeah, they very much took some inspiration from classical kind of impressionist paintings, particularly with a watercolor influence. And you'll see a lot of that, particularly in Skyloft, and also to a certain extent down below, where you have kind of these sweeping vistas and you can see out in the distance, and there's this really nice watercolor filter over the background. But a lot of that was...
and I gotta say, that's a cool looking heart.
That is a cool looking heart.
That is definitely a satisfying get.
And so the team, I think particularly because of the Skyloft setting and kind of the blue sky, felt that was going to be a nice mesh there. But you can also see how with the closer up, the dungeon and whatnot, it still has a little bit of that kind of cel-shaded look of Wind Waker blended with the realism of Twilight Princess.
Yeah. Sort of an evolution of the art styles, that has been seen before.
That's
now
right.
We're actually going to take a peek into the dungeon, but before we go there, Chuck, what's on your shirt here? Because
this is actually a 20th anniversary T-shirt that was done in Japan for the Legend of Zelda series.
Very cool.
And of course, this year is the 25th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda.
That one's been sitting in the drawer for a while.
That's right. That's right. Brought it out just for you guys.
Excellent. We appreciate it.
So this here is an example of how the combat has kind of evolved, whereas before, typically you would just swing your sword at an enemy and that would be enough to damage the enemy or hurt them. In this case, you've got to figure out how to fight the spider in a way that gets you access to its weak point.
Get him to kind of rear up on you.
Yeah. And you've also got, you see a spider there on screen that's hanging from a thread. And in this case, you can use your item you could either, let's see if he's going to do this. Yeah, he's going to come over here, cut the thread, drop the spider down, and then he can run and fight it the same way he just did that last spider. The other thing you can do is if it's still on the thread, then there's ways that you can kind of spin the spider around if you're using your sword properly to then get access to
I actually got a chance to try this demo at E3, and that's exactly what I did. The spider was still on the thread, and I went up and just took a whack at it. But then it was like this tetherball thing where it just kind of swung out, and then, oh my god, it's swinging back at me. And like I had to dodge out of the way, and I'm still trying to get access to it, but it's spinning, and it was swinging around in like such a realistic way. It had, it wasn't just hit it and it swings back and forth.
Right.
Like Ocarina of Time style. It was.
Right.
It was all around, and I had to really sort of figure out, oh, okay, this is not quite as going as I planned.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the same dungeon that we showed at E3, but I think what a lot of people don't really realize is that we were plopping people right down in the middle of the dungeon. There's a whole section of the dungeon that came before this that nobody got to see yet.
No kidding.
Yeah, and even starting in at this point in the dungeon and playing all the way through the demo, I think there weren't a whole lot of people that actually got to the end of the dungeon. So even the dungeons themselves, I think, are probably a lot more intricate and probably a little bit larger than you've seen in some of the past.
More intricate, more puzzle solving, more immersive combat. I mean, you're like hitting all the right buttons here, Bill. I'm really excited about this game. Another thing I noticed about the dungeon when I was playing is this foliage that's around. I mean, and you know, foliage is no new thing to Zelda, but a lot of it feels like it's not that you're not going to chop it and get a potion or a heart. It's ornamental. It's to increase the ambiance of the level, and it just seems like these environments are very rich.
They are, and I think if you played, you probably also noticed that you know, even when you're trying to cut through that grass and expecting, you know, items and, you know, Deku seeds and hearts to pop out, they're not popping out as frequently as maybe they used to in the past.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
But I like the mushrooms too. That's a fun place to like just sort of flex your Wii Motion Plus.
Yes.
Because you cut them and it just sort of, it scars very quickly and then it heals back up, and so you can chop all sorts of different angles and see that it actually really works well. Oh, hello. Who is this lady?
This is Fi. So one of the things that we have talked a little bit about is that Skyward Sword sort of tells the story of the creation of the Master Sword, which has long been the kind of weapon that Link uses.
The iconic.
The iconic sword. So this is the story of how that sword was created, and Fi is the spirit that sort of guides Link along his adventure.
And so she just sort of, you know, appears, disappears. She's got magical powers. That's cool.
She is the spirit of the sword, so she's housed in the sword.
Oh, so she's sort of coming along with you.
She's along with you. So, and you'll actually get. You may notice at times when the hilt of the sword, if it's on your back, will start blinking as a kind of to give you an indication that she's got something to share with you.
Does the sword say, "Hey, listen"?
Yes, she does not. She does not say, "Hey, listen."
But now the thing I noticed about her is that she also had a very prominently featured diamond on her chest. So some connection maybe between her and Girahim?
Girahim? That's an interesting observation. You might have to play the game a bit more to figure that out. You're astute.
You know, and that's the cool thing is it pays to be observant because there's stuff to see and there's stuff that is visually connected.
Now here you also see the Wii Motion Plus being used not only for the sword combat, but also for all the items. You know, you've seen Link fly his beetle around. The beetle, you also use Wii Motion Plus to steer and control that. For the bow, you're also using your pulling back, your aiming.
It's the pullback as well.
The pullback, right?
Combo.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really just added a great deal of realism to the game, and I think it just is fantastic the way it really feels like it's put Link's items in your hands.
Now the beetle is obviously a new one here for Skyward Sword, but before we wrap up, you know, that item wheel that we've seen a few times has a lot of empty spots.
There are a lot of empty spots.
You want to tell us about one other item that maybe a question mark there that you could tell us about?
That's a good question, but I don't think we're ready.
No, not today, Bill.
Not today.
Right. Fair enough.
But what I can say though is what we have done with the game this time that's I think a little bit different is they've built an entire upgrade system into the game. So, for example, right now you can see that Link has kind of his traditional shield, but he actually will get a lot of different shields in the game, and you'll start off with a very basic one.
Okay.
And then as you fight enemies, you'll recover kind of these little treasures or kind of artifacts that you then use as the resources to upgrade your items.
Nice.
And you can do that with the shield, you can do that with the beetle and some of the other items that you have where you're able to kind of combining your collection of rupees and your collection of these resources and improve the items that you have.
Well, I think if we talk about this game anymore, how badly I'm coveting it right now will just rise to dangerous levels. So I think we should wrap the demo up.
Okay.
Bill, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, obviously very hotly anticipated, especially in this area of the world. When's it coming out?
Coming out this holiday.
This holiday?
Yep.
Okay, I can probably wait that long. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. Now, you saw Homer interviewing some Mass Effect cosplayers a little earlier, and we've got Mass Effect 3 on the show later today. But coming up next, we're checking out another BioWare game, Dragon Age 2, and the latest DLC for that one. Let's take a look.
Hey Hey folks, Homer Barra back here at the EA booth at the Hilton in the Gaslamp District for Comic-Con 2011. I have happened upon